My hysterical stepsister tried to manipulate me to destroy my family. So she lied that I wanted to pay son her at the party. I'm 29F, married to my amazing husband, Andrew, 33M. We've been together for 8 years, married for 6, and life has been great, until recently. My family has always been a bit complicated. My parents divorced when I was 12, and my mom left us. We've had no contact with her since then. My dad, 57M, remarried Karen, 53F, when I was 16. She brought her daughter, Jennifer, 27F, into the family. Jennifer and I never really clicked, mainly because she was always envious of my relationship with our dad, who has always shown me more affection, which only made things worse. Jennifer has always been a bit spoiled and entitled. Karen constantly dotes on her, and whenever there's been any argument or conflict, Karen always takes Jennifer's side. My dad tries to stay neutral, but it's clear that he's closer to me, which has caused problems over the years. Jennifer feels sidelined, even though she's now an adult and should handle things better. Adding to the complexity, I have a half-brother, Michael, 15M, who is Karen and my dad's son. He's a great kid, but the family dynamics are just as messy. My dad dotes on him as well, but Jennifer feels like she's always pushed aside. Despite being an adult, she struggles with the way our dad treats us differently. I'm a successful business owner, which has only deepened the rift between Jennifer and me. She's always been envious of my career and my relationship with our dad. She works as an entry-level marketing assistant and constantly complains about how life isn't fair and how she doesn't get the same opportunities. I've tried to be supportive, but it's hard when she's always so negative and trying to bring me down. Recently, she started dating Mark, 36M, who seems like a decent guy, but now I'm questioning everything. Jennifer and I never really got along, even when we were younger. I guess it's not uncommon for step-siblings to have tension, but ours was on another level. From the start, Jennifer resented me for the bond one had with our dad. She always saw me as competition, which was frustrating because I genuinely wanted a sisterly relationship with her. But as time went on, it became clear that wasn't going to happen. My dad's favoritism didn't help. He's always been proud of my achievements and never hesitated to tell anyone who would listen. Jennifer, on the other hand, seemed like more of a disappointment in his eyes, which only deepened the divide between us. Whenever something went wrong in her life, she found a way to blame me or claim that I had it easier because our dad loved me more. It was exhausting. And Karen? She's always been Jennifer's biggest cheerleader, no matter what. Even when Jennifer was clearly in the wrong, Karen would defend her. This has caused friction between Karen and my dad, but he's never been one to confront it head-on. He just tries to keep the peace, much to my frustration. Over the years, Jennifer's jealousy turned toxic. She's never been happy for any of my successes and often tries to downplay them. When I got married to Andrew, she barely acknowledged it and made the whole thing about how she was single and how unfair it was. When I started my business, she scoffed, saying I only got where I am because of our dad's support. It's like she can't stand to see me happy or successful, which has made it impossible for us to have any real relationship. Despite all this, I've tried to keep the peace. I don't go out of my way to rub my successes in her face, and I've even gone out of my way to include her in things, hoping it might improve our relationship, but it's never enough. No matter what I do, she finds a way to twist it into something negative. It's exhausting and honestly heartbreaking because I wish things could be different. One of the most painful parts of my life has been my struggle with infertility. For years ago, Andrew and I decided we were ready to start a family. We were so excited and optimistic, but things didn't go as planned. After a year of trying with no success, we went to a fertility specialist and got the news that I have a condition that makes it incredibly difficult to conceive naturally. We tried everything, medications, treatments, and even IVF, but nothing worked. Each failed attempt felt like a punch to the gut and took a huge toll on both of us emotionally. We were devastated, especially because we had always dreamed of having a big family. It's been incredibly hard on our relationship. The stress and disappointment were overwhelming at times, and there were moments when I felt completely hopeless. My family knows about our struggles, including Jennifer. At first, they were all very supportive. My dad tried to be there for me in his own way, but he's never been great with emotional stuff. Karen was more hands-on, offering to help with anything we needed. Even Jennifer seemed sympathetic at first, but that didn't last long. Before long, Jennifer started making little digs and comments that cut deep. I remember one time when she casually mentioned how lucky I was to be able to focus on my career without the burden of children. It stung, especially coming from someone who knew how much I wanted to be a mom. It felt like she was taking pleasure in my pain, which hurt more than I can put into words. It's hard enough dealing with infertility without having someone in your own family rubbing salt in the wound. As if that wasn't enough, Jennifer would bring up her own plans for having kids one day, almost like she was taunting me. She'd talk about how easy it would be for her to get pregnant and how she wasn't in any rush because she had all the time in the world. It was cruel, and I couldn't understand why she would say such things, knowing what I was going through. Jennifer's always been a bit of a drama queen. She's single, working as a low-level marketing assistant, and constantly complaining about how life hasn't turned out the way she wanted. She's the type of person who craves attention, even if it means exaggerating or fabricating stories to get it. I've lost count of the times she's claimed to be sick, only to miraculously recover the next day when something fun came up. Recently, she started dating this guy, Mark, 36M, and at first, I thought it might be good for her. He seemed kind, successful, and grounded, exactly what Jennifer needs. But as their relationship progressed, I started noticing some red flags. For one, Jennifer has been pressuring Mark to move faster than he's comfortable with. She's been talking about marriage and kids after just a few months of dating, which seems a bit rushed, especially given her history of wanting things for the wrong reasons. Jennifer has always had this desperate need to keep up with me, or rather, to outdo me. It's like she can't be happy unless she feels like she's one-upping me in some way. I've seen it time and time again, whether it's with our careers, our relationships, or now with the idea of starting a family. It's exhausting, and I've reached the point where I don't know what more I can do to keep the peace. She's also known to exaggerate things for sympathy. When she was younger, she would fake injuries to get out of gym class or make up stories about how unfair her teachers were. It's always been something, and now it seems like that behavior has carried over into her adult life. She's constantly talking about how hard her job is, how she's not appreciated, and how everyone is out to get her. It's hard to feel sympathy for someone who's always playing the victim, especially when you know they're not being entirely honest. Mark seems like a decent guy, but I worry about him getting caught up in Jennifer's web. He doesn't know her like we do, and I'm concerned that he might not see the warning signs until it's too late. But at the same time, it's not really my place to interfere. I just hope that, for his sake and for Jennifer's, things don't spiral out of control. Fast forward to last weekend. Andrew and I were celebrating our 6th wedding anniversary, and it was also a chance to announce the expansion of my business. We decided to throw a big dinner party, inviting close family, friends, and some business associates. I wanted it to be a special night, especially after everything Andrew and I have been through recently. I spent weeks planning every detail, choosing the perfect menu, hiring a professional catering service, and even setting up some discreet security cameras. There have been a few break-ins in our neighborhood recently, so I didn't want to take any chances. Everything was supposed to be perfect, and I was excited to share our good news with everyone we care about. On the guest list were my dad, Karen, Jennifer, Michael, and a few of our closest friends and business partners. I was hesitant about inviting Jennifer, given our history, but I figured it was the right thing to do. Plus, I thought maybe this would be an opportunity for us to finally get along, even if just for one night. As the day of the party approached, I wanted everything to go smoothly and for everyone to have a good time. Andrew and I worked together to make sure every detail was perfect. The caterers arrived early, and we set up a beautiful table with flowers and candles. I even splurged on some expensive wine that I knew our guests would love. When everyone arrived, it felt like all the hard work had paid off. We kicked things off with some champagne and appetizers, and for the most part, everyone seemed to be enjoying themselves. Even Jennifer was being unusually pleasant, which I took as a good sign. I started to relax and actually enjoy the evening, thinking maybe, just maybe, things were looking up. Everything was going smoothly until dessert. The caterers brought out a gorgeous cake, and we were just about to make our big announcement about the business expansion when Jennifer suddenly stood up. I thought she was going to make a toast or something, but instead, she blurted out that she had some news of her own. She looked around the room with this smug smile and said, "I'm pregnant, 4 months along." I swear, you could have heard a pin drop. Everyone was stunned, including her boyfriend, Mark, who looked completely blindsided. He stared at her like he couldn't believe what he was hearing. I can't even begin to describe the mix of emotions I felt at that moment. Shock, hurt, anger. All of it hit me at once. I've always dreamed of making that kind of announcement myself, but after everything Andrew and I have been through with infertility, I knew that moment might never come. And here was Jennifer, hijacking our night to drop her bombshell, fully aware of my struggles. I could see the pitying looks from some of our guests, and it made me want to disappear. But instead of causing a scene, I somehow managed to keep my composure. I plastered on a smile and congratulated her, even though I was dying inside. Andrew squeezed my hand under the table, which helped me stay calm, but I knew he was just as upset as I was. We had planned this night to celebrate our achievements, and now it had turned into a celebration of Jennifer's pregnancy. After offering my congratulations, I excused myself and slipped away to the bathroom to compose myself. I needed a minute to gather my thoughts and stop the tears from falling. It was supposed to be our night, and she completely stole it from us. I couldn't understand why she would do something so thoughtless, especially knowing what we've been through. But then again, this was typical Jennifer, always needing to be the center of attention, no matter the cost. The next morning, Andrew and I were still processing what had happened. We tried to focus on the positives, like the kind words we'd received from our friends and how well the business news had been received, but it was hard to shake the hurt and frustration. I didn't expect to hear from Jennifer anytime soon, but just as we were sitting down for breakfast, there was a loud knock at the door. I opened it to find Jennifer standing there, looking furious. She pushed past me without waiting, storming into the living room. Before I could ask what was going on, she launched into a tirade, accusing me of spiking the food at the party to make her sick. She claimed she had been vomiting all night and morning and was convinced I had done something out of jealousy over her pregnancy. I was completely taken aback. Spiking the food? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I told her that was ridiculous, that we had the food professionally catered, and there was no way anything could have been tampered with. But she wouldn't listen. She kept insisting that I must have done something and demanded to see the CCTV footage from the party to prove I was innocent. Andrew came into the room, trying to calm her down, but Jennifer was having none of it. She was shouting, making all sorts of wild accusations, and honestly, I didn't know how to respond. I was hurt and angry that she would even think I was capable of something so malicious. The whole situation escalated quickly. Jennifer threatened to call the police and press charges if I didn't show her the footage right then and there. She was acting completely irrational, and I didn't know what to do. Part of me wanted to kick her out of the house, but another part of me wanted to show her the footage just to shut her up and prove that I had done nothing wrong. Andrew tried to reason with her, suggesting that maybe she was just experiencing morning sickness, but she wasn't having it. She was convinced that I had done something to sabotage her pregnancy, and nothing we said was going to change her mind. I felt like I was in some sort of twisted nightmare, and I just wanted it to end. After a few more minutes of shouting and accusations, I finally agreed to show her the CCTV footage. I figured it was the only way to get her to calm down and leave us in peace. Andrew and I led her to the room where we had the footage stored, and I pulled up the recordings from the night before. As we watched the footage together, I kept glancing at Jennifer, waiting for her to realize how ridiculous her accusations were. The footage showed everything: guests arriving, dinner being served, and everyone enjoying themselves. There was nothing out of the ordinary, no suspicious behavior, and certainly no evidence that I had tampered with the food. But instead of backing down, Jennifer doubled down. She started picking apart every little thing in the footage, claiming that certain guests looked uncomfortable or that maybe the caterers had done something at my request. She was grasping at straws, and it was clear she wasn't going to let this go. Then, out of nowhere, she turned to me and said that if I didn't confess to what I'd done, she would take this to the next level. She was talking about pressing charges, going to the police, and even suing me for what she claimed was an attempt to harm her unborn child. I had never seen her like this before. So angry, so determined to make me the villain in her story. Andrew tried to intervene again, suggesting that maybe Jennifer was just overwhelmed with everything going on in her life, but she wasn't having it. She was dead set on making me pay for something I hadn't even done. It was like she was on a mission to destroy me, and I didn't understand why. I felt trapped. If I didn't show her the footage, she would think I was hiding something. But even with the footage, she wasn't satisfied. I didn't know what else I could do to prove my innocence, and the thought of her dragging this out with the police or in court was terrifying. I was at a complete loss and just wanted the whole thing to end. So after Jennifer's meltdown, I decided to review the CCTV footage more closely, just to be sure there was nothing I'd missed. I didn't expect to find anything, but I was desperate to clear my name and put this whole mess behind me. As I was watching the footage, something caught my eye. During the party, there was a moment when Mark, Jennifer's boyfriend, was standing near the drinks table. It was subtle, but I noticed him slip something into Jennifer's glass when she wasn't looking. What the hell was going on? I replayed the footage several times to make sure I wasn't imagining things, but it was clear as day. Mark had definitely put something in her drink. I was in shock. What had he done, and why? I knew I had to confront him about it, but I also knew this was going to blow things up even more. I called Mark and asked him to come over. He sounded nervous but agreed. When he arrived, I didn't waste any time. I showed him the footage and demanded an explanation. At first, he tried to deny it, but when he realized there was no getting around it, he finally confessed. Mark admitted that he had spiked Jennifer's drink with Plan B. He said she had been pressuring him to have a baby, and he wasn't ready for that kind of commitment. Apparently, Jennifer had been lying to him about being on birth control, and he freaked out when he found out. So, in a moment of panic, he slipped the pill into her drink, hoping to prevent her pregnancy without having to confront her directly. I was speechless. Her boyfriend was drugging her to prevent her from getting pregnant. Seriously? After Mark confessed, I didn't know what to do next. I was furious, disgusted, and honestly a little scared of what this would mean for everyone involved. But I knew I couldn't keep this to myself. Jennifer needed to know the truth, even though I knew it would devastate her. I called Jennifer and asked her to come over. When she arrived, she was still angry, probably expecting another confrontation about the food. But when I told her what Mark had done, her face went pale. She didn't say anything at first, just stared at me in shock. I showed her the footage, and at first, she tried to deny it, saying that I must have doctored the video somehow. But the evidence was right there, and eventually, she had to face the truth. When it finally sunk in, she went from denial to fury. She started screaming at Mark, calling him every name in the book. It was a full-blown meltdown, with her throwing things and accusing him of ruining her life. Then, in the midst of her ranting, she blurted out something that shocked me even more. She admitted that she had lied about being pregnant. She said she made up the pregnancy to try and trap Mark into staying with her because she was afraid he was going to leave. She thought that if he believed she was carrying his child, he'd have no choice but to commit to her fully. I was completely stunned. Here I was, thinking she was actually pregnant and that she had announced it at my party out of some twisted need for attention, but it was all a lie, a desperate, pathetic attempt to manipulate Mark. And now her lie had blown up in her face in the worst possible way. Jennifer then turned on me, blaming me for ruining everything. She said that if I hadn't shown her the footage, she could have kept up the lie, and everything would have been fine. I couldn't believe it. She was still trying to twist everything to make me the bad guy, even after everything she'd done. As if things couldn't get worse, my dad and Karen showed up in the middle of this mess. Apparently, Jennifer had called them on her way over, ranting about how I was out to get her, so they came over to sort things out. But they walked in just as Jennifer was going off on Mark. It was chaos. Karen immediately jumped to Jennifer's defense, demanding to know what I had done to upset her daughter. I tried to explain everything. Mark spiking the drink, Jennifer lying about the pregnancy, but Karen wasn't hearing it. She accused me of setting Jennifer up, saying I'd always been jealous and was just looking for a way to ruin her life. My dad, on the other hand, was silent at first. He watched the footage, listened to what Mark had to say, and then turned to Jennifer with a look I'd never seen before. Disappointment doesn't even begin to cover it. He couldn't believe what she had done. Lying about something as serious as a pregnancy, manipulating everyone around her, and then turning on me for exposing the truth. My dad sided with me in the conflict with Jennifer. He told her that what she did was inexcusable and that she needed to take responsibility for her actions. Jennifer, of course, didn't take that well. She started crying, saying that no one ever supports her, that she's always the one who gets blamed while I'm treated like the golden child. Karen was furious with my dad for not defending Jennifer. She accused him of abandoning their family and letting me turn him against them. The whole thing turned into a huge argument between my dad and Karen, with Jennifer screaming in the background. It was a total disaster, and I just wanted everyone to leave. Eventually, they did. My dad told Jennifer and Karen to go home and cool off, and they left, with Jennifer still crying and Karen glaring at me like I was the devil. I felt completely drained. All I wanted was a nice celebration for our anniversary and business news, and now my family was in shambles because of this mess. I had a few close friends and business associates reach out to me, concerned about the drama. Some were supportive, but others hinted that they were worried this mess might affect my business reputation. I guess it's understandable. No one wants to be associated with scandal, especially when it involves something as serious as accusations of spiking drinks and lying about a pregnancy. I reassured them that everything was under control, but inside, I was freaking out a little. The last thing I need is for this drama to bleed into my professional life. As for Jennifer, her reputation has taken a significant hit. People who were at the party, especially those who heard her announcement firsthand, are now questioning everything about her. Some mutual friends have distanced themselves, and she's been avoiding social media, which is unusual for her. Normally, she loves the attention, but now it seems like she's gone into hiding. In terms of family dynamics, things have gotten even more complicated. Mark broke up with Jennifer shortly after everything came to light. He couldn't deal with the fallout and was understandably furious about being manipulated. Jennifer, of course, blames me for the breakup, claiming that if I hadn't shown her the footage, they'd still be together. It's classic Jennifer, deflecting blame instead of taking responsibility. My dad is really torn up about the whole thing. He's always had a soft spot for Jennifer, despite her behavior, but this time he seems to be rethinking that. He's been talking about cutting ties with her, which I never thought I'd hear him say. It's really strained his relationship with Karen, who's still defending Jennifer. Things between them are tense, to say the least, and I'm worried it might lead to more serious issues in their marriage. With everything that's happened, I've been seriously considering legal action against Mark. What he did, spiking Jennifer's drink, even if it was with Plan B, was completely out of line. I've talked to a lawyer, and while they said I have a case if I want to press charges, they also warned me that it could get messy. Mark might countersue for defamation, especially now that the whole thing has become public. It's a lot to think about, and I'm not sure if it's worth the additional stress. At the same time, Jennifer has been throwing around threats of a lawsuit against me for emotional distress. She's claiming that by showing the CCTV footage and exposing her lies, I've caused her severe emotional trauma. It's absurd, but the lawyer advised me to take it seriously, just in case she decides to follow through. We're looking into options for a countersuit if it comes to that, but honestly, the idea of going to court over this makes me sick. I just want this nightmare to end. To make matters worse, Karen is fully on Jennifer's side. She's been pushing my dad to take legal action against me, which is just insane. My dad, thankfully, isn't entertaining that idea, but it's driving a wedge between him and Karen. He's been staying at our place more often, trying to avoid the tension at home. I hate seeing him caught in the middle, but I don't know how to fix it. Right now, I'm trying to focus on protecting myself and my business. I've installed additional security measures at home and at work, just in case things escalate. I've also started documenting everything, every interaction, every threat. So I have a record if this does go to court. It feels like overkill, but I'd rather be safe than sorry. In an attempt to salvage what's left of our family, my dad suggested we try family therapy. He's desperate to fix things with Karen, and I think he's still holding out hope that we can somehow repair our relationship with Jennifer. I wasn't thrilled about the idea, but I agreed because I knew how much it meant to him. Karen reluctantly agreed as well, but Jennifer flat out refused at first. After some convincing, though, she finally agreed to one session, just to hear everyone out, as she put it. The session was unsurprisingly a disaster. The therapist tried to mediate, but Jennifer was hostile from the moment we walked in. She spent most of the time playing the victim, accusing me of ruining her life and claiming that I've always been jealous of her. She kept saying that if I hadn't interfered, she and Mark would be happy and planning their future together. It was all about how I'd exposed her and how unfair it was that she was the one suffering because of it. Karen was no better. She defended Jennifer at every turn, blaming me for stirring the pot and causing all this drama. She even had the nerve to suggest that I should have kept quiet about the CCTV footage and handled things privately to avoid embarrassing Jennifer. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Like I was supposed to just let Jennifer continue with her lies and manipulation to keep the peace? My dad tried to stay neutral, but even he lost his patience at one point. He told Jennifer that she needed to take responsibility for her actions and stop blaming everyone else for her problems. Karen took that as a betrayal, and the two of them ended up in a shouting match. The therapist tried to regain control, but it was too late. Jennifer stormed out, yelling that she was done with all of us, and Karen followed her out. The session ended with my dad sitting there looking defeated. He apologized to me, saying he didn't know what else to do, and that maybe it was time to accept that things wouldn't get better. It was heartbreaking to see him so upset, and it made me realize that this situation might be beyond saving. Since the disastrous therapy session, things have only gotten worse for Jennifer. I heard through mutual friends that she lost her job. Apparently, her behavior has been erratic, and she's been missing work or showing up late. Her boss finally had enough and let her go. I can't say I'm surprised, but it's still sad to see her spiral like this. On top of that, she started spreading rumors about me online. She's been posting on social media, accusing me of sabotaging her life and turning our family against her. She's even hinted that I manipulated the footage to make Mark look bad, which is ridiculous. Most people who know the full story aren't buying it, but there are a few who seem to be eating it up. It's hurtful, and it's making me question whether I should have kept everything private, even though I know that would have only prolonged the inevitable. My dad is beside himself with worry. He's tried reaching out to Jennifer, but she's not responding. Karen, of course, is furious with him for not supporting Jennifer more and blames him for pushing her away. Things between them are hanging by a thread, and I'm afraid their marriage might not survive this. My dad's even talked about cutting off financial support to Jennifer, hoping it might force her to get her life together, but Karen's dead set against it. I'm at my wit's end. I've considered cutting ties with Jennifer completely, but it's not that simple. She's still family, and despite everything, a part of me still cares about her. But I can't keep letting her drag me and everyone else down. I've started looking into legal options to protect myself from the slander she's spreading online. My lawyer is advising me to send a cease and desist letter, but I'm hesitant. I don't want to escalate things further, but I also can't let her continue to spread lies about me. Later I found out I'm pregnant, and it wasn't through IVF or any other treatment. It happened naturally, against all odds. Andrew and I are over the moon, but we've been cautious about who we tell, given everything that's happened with Jennifer. We decided to keep it a secret until I was well into my second trimester. After years of heartbreak and disappointment, we finally had something to celebrate. But at the same time, there was this underlying fear of how Jennifer might react if she found out. She's been out of control since the whole incident with Mark, and the last thing we wanted was for her to find a way to ruin this for us too. We've kept the pregnancy under wraps, only telling a few close friends and immediate family. My dad was ecstatic when we told him, and he's been incredibly supportive. Karen, on the other hand, had a more mixed reaction. She seemed happy for us, but also a bit distant. I think she's still struggling with everything that happened with Jennifer, and it's affecting how she feels about my news. Despite the tension, Andrew and I are focusing on the positive. We've started preparing the nursery and making plans for the baby's arrival. It's such a relief to finally be in this place after everything we've been through. I can't say the fear of something going wrong has completely disappeared, but I'm trying to stay optimistic. As we approached the point where we felt ready to announce the pregnancy to the rest of the family, we knew it would be tricky. We decided to plan a small, intimate gathering with just our closest family members, my dad, Karen, Michael, and a few friends. But we made a deliberate decision not to invite Jennifer. After everything that's happened, we felt it was safer and less stressful to leave her out of it. The day of the gathering came, and I was nervous but excited. We had a simple dinner planned, and after everyone had eaten, Andrew and I stood up to make our announcement. My heart was racing as I told everyone the news, but the reaction was everything we could have hoped for. My dad was overjoyed, jumping up to hug us both, and Michael was thrilled at the idea of becoming an uncle. Even Karen, despite her recent distance, smiled and congratulated us, though I could see she was holding back a bit. After the initial excitement, there was a moment of awkwardness when Karen asked if we had told Jennifer. I could see the tension in the room as everyone waited for my answer. I explained that we hadn't told her yet and that we weren't sure how to handle it, given everything that's happened. My dad nodded in understanding, but Karen seemed conflicted. I think she wanted to suggest inviting Jennifer over, but she held back, probably sensing it wasn't the right time. We finished the evening on a high note, with everyone toasting to the new addition to the family. It felt like a turning point, like maybe, just maybe, we were finally moving past all the pain and drama. The next day, the news started to spread. We hadn't posted anything on social media yet, but word of mouth travels fast in our family. It wasn't long before I started getting messages from friends and relatives, all congratulating us. I was basking in the positivity, trying to stay focused on the joy of the moment, but I knew it was only a matter of time before Jennifer found out. Sure enough, later that evening, I got a call from my dad. He sounded nervous and said that Jennifer had heard about the pregnancy through mutual friends. According to him, she was livid, furious that we hadn't told her directly and that she had to find out through someone else. He warned me that she might show up at our house, and he wasn't wrong. Just as my dad had warned, Jennifer showed up at our house that very night. Andrew and I were winding down from the day, enjoying a quiet moment together when we heard the pounding on the front door. I knew it was her even before I opened the door. When I let her in, Jennifer looked furious, almost unhinged. She didn't waste any time launching into her tirade. She accused me of deliberately excluding her from the announcement and said it was clear I was trying to erase her from the family. She kept going on about how unfair it was, how she had been through so much, and how I was rubbing my pregnancy in her face. I tried to stay calm and explain that we had kept the pregnancy private for a reason and that we were planning to tell her once we were ready, but she wasn't having any of it. She kept insisting that I had done this to hurt her, to get back at her for everything that happened with Mark. It was like she was rewriting history to paint herself as the victim, which, unfortunately, isn't anything new. The conversation quickly turned into a shouting match. She demanded to be part of the baby's life, insisting that she had a right to be involved as the child's aunt. But given everything that's happened, Andrew and I had already decided to set some firm boundaries. We told her that while we wouldn't completely cut her off, we needed space and time to focus on our new family without the constant drama. That's when she completely lost it. Jennifer started screaming that we were trying to take away the only family she had left, that we were isolating her, and that if we didn't let her be involved, she would make our lives hell. Andrew stepped in, telling her she needed to leave and that if she continued to threaten us, we would consider getting a restraining order. She stormed out, slamming the door behind her. I couldn't believe it had come to this, having to threaten legal action against my own stepsister just to protect my family's peace. After Jennifer's outburst, Andrew and I knew we had to make some tough decisions. We called my dad and filled him in on what had happened. He wasn't surprised, but I could tell he was deeply saddened by the whole situation. He's always tried to hold the family together, but even he admitted that things had gone too far this time. My dad fully supported our decision to set boundaries with Jennifer. He even suggested that we consider cutting contact with her for a while until she gets the help she clearly needs. Karen, however, was a different story. When she found out what had happened, she called me, clearly upset. She pleaded with me to reconsider, saying that Jennifer was just going through a tough time and that cutting her off would only make things worse. I tried to explain that we weren't cutting her off completely, just setting boundaries for the sake of our own sanity, but Karen didn't seem to understand. She kept saying that families should stick together no matter what, but I think she's in denial about how damaging Jennifer's behavior has been. In the end, Andrew and I decided to move forward with our plan. We're keeping contact with Jennifer to a minimum, only involving her in our lives when absolutely necessary. We've also installed more security measures at our home, just in case she tries to pull something crazy again. It's not how I wanted things to be, but I have to prioritize the safety and well-being of my growing family. As for my dad and Karen, their relationship has become even more strained. My dad has been spending more time away from home, staying with friends, or coming over to our place. Karen's still trying to hold everything together, but I can see that the stress is taking its toll on her too. I don't know what's going to happen with them, but I hope they can find a way to work through this without it completely tearing them apart. For now, I'm focusing on my pregnancy and preparing for the arrival of our baby. Andrew and I welcomed a healthy baby girl into the world a few months ago. We named her Sophia, and she's absolutely perfect. The birth was smooth, and both Sophia and I are healthy, which was a huge relief given all the stress I had during my pregnancy. Andrew has been an amazing father. He's completely smitten with Sophia and is hands-on with everything from diaper changes to late-night feedings. It's strengthened our bond even more, and I couldn't be more grateful to have him by my side. As for the rest of the family, things have been complicated but manageable. My dad has been a doting grandpa, and he's over at our place almost every day to see Sophia, especially with the ongoing drama with Jennifer and Karen. Karen, to her credit, has been making an effort to be more involved, although there's still some tension between us. She's been trying to be a good grandmother, and I'm trying to meet her halfway for the sake of keeping the peace. Now on to the situation with Jennifer. After the confrontation a year ago, we kept our distance as planned. Jennifer didn't take it well initially. She continued to lash out online and made a few more attempts to show up unannounced, but something shifted a few months ago. Karen convinced Jennifer to start therapy, and surprisingly, she agreed. I didn't expect much from it, but it seems like Jennifer is finally making some progress. According to my dad, Jennifer has been going to therapy regularly and has even started to acknowledge some of her past behavior. She reached out to me a few weeks ago, not to blame or accuse, but to genuinely apologize. It was a short message, but it seemed sincere. She admitted that she had been acting out of hurt and jealousy and that she was working on herself. She didn't ask for forgiveness, but just said she hoped we could have a relationship someday, even if it took time. I was cautious about responding, but eventually sent a brief reply acknowledging her message and saying that I appreciated her reaching out. I told her that I'm open to rebuilding our relationship, but it will have to be slow and on my terms. So far, she's respected that, which is more than I expected. Jennifer also got a new job and seems to be doing better overall. She's not back to her old self, but she's showing signs of maturity that I honestly never thought I'd see.